Well, today was the last day of classes with students. First off, congratulations to my grade 12s. I hope to see you again. Make sure you keep in touch. I always start my class every day by asking an attendance question where I get to find out a little bit more about my students and get to insult them to their face or traumatize them with my answer, whatever. But on my last day of classes, I let students ask me a question, and as long as it's appropriate, I'll answer. Well, today I got asked multiple times what would be some life advice. But of course, because it's me, I thought I would also give life advice as taught by a motorbike. So here are 3 life lessons as taught by a motorbike. The first one is just get going. We're often paralyzed by fear. We're often paralyzed by our need to be perfect. And this will prevent us from even starting something, even if it's something that we really want to do, because we know it's going to be hard and we know it's not going to be something we're going to be good at right away. If we're not careful, you can watch life completely pass you by. Perfect example of that for me is this trip. I've been wanting to go on this trip for years and years. And I was nervous about maybe I don't speak enough Spanish, or maybe I'll be lonely on the trip. That's a long time to be alone or to be on my own. But I always knew I wanted to do it. It really wasn't until I had a fellow teacher tell me about their trip to Colombia and South America. And I was like, why am I not doing this? What's going on here? And I really realized that the only thing that's preventing me from doing this is not committing to actually doing it. So that's the important part, is just get going. Anything hard, like riding a motorbike, for example, it's a skill that takes some time to learn. It's not easy right away. The important thing here is not to compare yourself to others, but compare yourself to who you were yesterday. Because any progress is progress. It's gonna be ugly, it's gonna be messy, but that's part of the learning process. The next one is something that I think I've inherently known, but I've been watching some other YouTube channels, one Ali Abdaal, and he really articulated it quite well. And he says that people are generally nice, but sometimes you'll have to go first. This really resonates with me when it comes to motorbike trips and traveling, that I will run into people and you might sit there and they might be sitting right next to you and you might want to be saying something, maybe you're bored and you'd love to have that conversation, but you're being too polite. I call it a Canadian standoff, where you're both sitting there, no one wants to be impolite, so no one says anything, and then there's that whole missed opportunity. People are generally nice. Sometimes you may have to go first. If you just walk up and introduce yourself, hey, how's it going? I see this all the time when it comes to motorbikes, where people want to come up and chat with you when you have a motorbike, or I would do the same when I see other riders. And then it turns out now I'm hanging out, I'm having lunch with that person, we're chatting about our experiences. Maybe I'm now riding with them for 2-3 days. That ends up being a friendship. But the important thing is take that first step. And you'll be surprised how often it is reciprocated. The last one is something that I've been teaching in my class, but something that I've also noticed too when it comes to traveling with motorbikes. I'll go to these different places and you experience different cultures, and you might see a lot of differing opinions. I'm not saying I'm good at this, but I am working on it. Listening is not waiting for your turn to respond. Real listening is, especially to something that you maybe disagree with, maybe you viscerally disagree with, and you are dying to say something, to respond, to show them how they're wrong and like really lash out. No, how can you even believe that? Real listening is sitting in your discomfort in that moment. And instead of trying to respond, saying, go on, tell me more, and waiting until they have felt heard, and waiting until they have said everything that they maybe are uncomfortable saying. And once they feel heard, that's when the real discussion begins. Listening, real listening, is hard. It takes a lot of patience. It was really articulated well to me by 2 things. One, a documentary that I absolutely recommend. It's a documentary called White Right Meeting the Enemy by Dia Khan. And there's a subsequent podcast by Simon Sinek that's called Extreme Listing with Dia Khan. I highly recommend it. It articulates this much better than I have, but it's something that I think is very important and something that we need as a society, a world, to do better at. So those are the 3 things that I told my students. They asked for some life advice. These are important lessons that I have learned since I graduated high school, and I'm still working on them. But at any rate, congratulations. Cheers.